Hey there. Today I want to talk to you about 5 charts that can help you save money on watercolor. You'll have to forgive my voice is a little bit rough today because I'm getting over a pretty serious sort of cold flu virus, whatever sort of situation. But I am excited to talk to you about this, and I've got a bit of voice in me, so I wanted to go ahead and share it with you. So when you start with watercolor, you might actually just get, something like this or this, where when you open it up, you've just got inside your few colors and you're set to go. And it feels all inspiring, and the more colors you see, the more inspiring it feels, and you just think, oh my goodness, I've got all these colors, how fun. But it's not very practical. You just don't get started with actually using them, and they look real dark inside of here. And so the first thing you want to do, which has nothing to do with this video, is that you should actually do a sheet just like these, where you actually show yourself what the color looks like in the location where it is inside of your palette. So whether your palette looks like this or like this or this, give yourself a chart. And I've got my chart here that tells me what's in all of these spaces. And it's really important to do something like this just so that you can actually see whatever palette you're using, what colors you have. These are squeezed out from a tube of watercolor. These are in pans. Whatever it is, whatever palette you're working with, make sure that you know what the color looks like, where it's located in there, and then keep that near your palette so that you can actually be ready to understand which colors are going to come out when you put your brush on that area of your palette. So once you actually know which colors you're dealing with, then you think, well, how do I actually save money? What if I really wanted to go traveling and I wanted something really small like this? In my Color Made Simple course, I teach how to make these colors here, just the ones on this circle here. There's 24 of these colors. How to make over 1,000 colors, just like you see right here. So this is actually all the colors that I can make from these 24 colors. I mean, this is a lot of colors, and you can actually see right here is those colors, and I just went around and got them all documented. And then in the last 3 here, I'll talk to you about these in a minute, but as you see right down the middle here, where cadmium yellow pale is on both sides, that's the same color. This is the purest color of this one and this one. So right down the center is the actual color that you see here. So let's say that we're mixing Winsor blue green shade with quinacridone violet. What we're going to get is some interesting colors here. You can actually see them. As you look through this chart, it'll actually tell you what's mixed together. And in this one, I just did the middle, like equal amounts of each color. On this side, I actually did a little bit more of the one color and a little bit more of the other color right next to each other. So I can actually see 3 variants, this one in the middle or this one on either side, 3 variants of mixing each of these 2 colors together. When you mix all of these together, so I can see how all of this mixes, and I can decide that I really, really want to use that color right there, and I don't have to guess how I make that color. It is quinacridone magenta with quinacridone violet, so I know that these 2 colors over here mixed together are going to give me that beautiful color there. And if I want this color here, which is a bit of a periwinkle type color, I'm going to want French ultramarine and some white as a tint. And so that is going to give me that beautiful color, and then I'm going to have this beautiful color. I know how to make these again and again because I've got this chart. So this chart is invaluable. Once you have something that shows how everything sits in your palette, then you need a way to see how everything mixes together. So just line up everything in here, and then just mix it on this side and that side. And if you want to know all the details of how to do this, any of these I'm showing you, I've actually got them in my Color Made Simple course. I know I've spoken to you about this before. It is easily the most popular course that I have. People absolutely love it. And there's a few modules here inside the course, and you can actually get these charts from me and go through and actually make the charts for yourself and get templates for all of this stuff inside the workbooks and all of that. So there's, I don't just leave you hanging. So if you want to understand how to do all of this in detail, I can totally show you how, and I'll link below the video how to get the Color Made Simple course if you're interested. It's self-paced, so you can walk your way through it and have that support that you need and be able to do this kind of stuff. It's super, super easy. But I've just taken 24 colors and I've made over 1,000 colors from 24 colors. So this is a huge way to save money. And then I don't need to go buy some specialist color from Winsor & Newton or Daniel Smith or whomever, because I just know how to make brick red. I don't need to buy a brick red looking color that's already been mixed for me. I just make it myself, and I know exactly how to make it. I put Winsor Green yellow shade with this cadmium scarlet, and I put a little bit more of the scarlet than I do of the Winsor Green yellow shade. And then I get this nice brick red. Or I can try this brick red if I want to have a variant. And so it goes. So I can make these colors again and again because I have a chart that is my cheat sheet. So this thing can go with me. And if you have just 6 colors, then mix all 6 colors and find out how this works. It's however many you have, do all of them and mix them all together, and then you can see what you're dealing with. Now, the next thing that you want to try and do is a chart on showing what happens with your hue, which is the color, when you add white, which is a tint, gray for tone, and black for shade. Now, if I add to this yellow white, it's this nice lemony pastel, but when I add gray to it, it turns sort of green, and black, it's kind of an olive color there. All of these things do different things when I add white, gray, or black to them. And depending on whether your gray has a sort of blue undertone or a gray undertone, more of a sort of greenish undertone, it will change. And this one has that sort of blue undertone, so when you add blue and yellow together, you get this green. That's why we've got a greenish color coming through on this gray, because the gray has a blue undertone. Now, these things are all things that you find out by doing these sheets, and then when you're actually creating, you don't go to put gray down over top of your yellow and suddenly you think, how on earth did I end up with a green color? I wasn't expecting that. That's why we make these charts, and that's why we save money, because you just need your colors in your palette and then get yourself some white, gray, and black, and then you can make a whole array of other colors. And so I've actually included that in my chart. So I did my 24 colors, and then on the outside I put the white, gray, and black, and that way I have down here all the white, gray, and black that allows me to see what happens when I add white to phthalo turquoise. It looks just this beautiful sky blue color, and that's really helpful for me when I'm making the sky color. And I know that if I want this sort of periwinkle blue, then I'm going to add that cobalt blue with the zinc white. Or if I want this deeper bluish color here, I need that lamp black with that, right? So having the ability to stretch our colors with just white, gray, and black, that's 3 colors with whatever palette you have, and you can suddenly add so much by stretching the colors you have, and you haven't added any colors. So that's just 3, they're not really colors. Actually, white, gray, and black are not considered color, they're colorless. But I think they're really, really helpful. So you can make all these colors by creating this chart. This is considered a color mixing chart, and this is to show you how it fits in your palette. Now, in my case, I would suggest that you go a step further. If you don't have everything in the shape of a color wheel, try and organize your stuff according to the color wheel. Now, there is actually a bit of a trick to this. If you want your colors to mix really beautifully, like you see here, where everything's super vibrant, you want to have a really pure pigment, which means that it doesn't have multiple pigments mixed together, and that it's actually legitimately the next color on in the outside of this color wheel. I'll talk to you about that in a moment here. And this is something which I learned about from my studies from instructors, and really got to depths with it, and then tried to break it down to create in my Color Made Simple course so that I could make it simple for you. So you get in the workbooks, you get actually all of the cheat sheets. It tells you exactly which colors I use with different brands, so that you can just go and buy what you want, and you could just buy 6 colors here for a cool and warm color palette, and just work from those 3 of each, and literally you could do the entire course with 6 colors and come up with tons and tons of colors. Or you could go for 12 of the main colors around the color wheel, or you could do all 24 like me and learn about the palette and all that kind of stuff. The options are limitless, but even with these 24, you still have over 1,000 colors you can make, and you'd never have to buy any more colors. But what is really important is to not just see what happens when you mix them all together. What happens when you actually mix them across the wheel from each other is really important in biojournaling, actually, and with any watercolor, because when you mix something across the color wheel from each other, you can get a sort of muted down tone going. It doesn't have this sort of vibrancy. So as you can see from this Winsor & Newton mixing chart that I've got here, this is all the colors on the color wheel on the outside. Now, when I add orange, and I'll just do this so that you can see this, when I add an orange with blue, these are the colors that I can get straight down here. And so what happens is this chart, I add the tiniest bit of blue to my orange, and I've got this sort of neutral-ish color. I add a little bit more blue, and it's even more neutral. Then it's starting to get brown, brown, brown. And here I've got more blue, but there's still a little bit of orange, and here's hardly any orange. And I repeat this throughout the entire process. So here I've got some yellow and purple across the wheel from each other. Here's a tiny bit of purple in this, tiny bit of yellow in here, and so on and so forth. So this allows me to see what's going to happen when I mix colors across the wheel from each other. And this color mixing chart is just a bit different because I'm doing it by the color wheel. I can understand what happens when I mix things across from each other, what's going to happen. And ultimately, that's where I think this last and final 5th chart is really, really interesting and useful. I didn't mix anything on this chart. This chart here is an exact understanding of what colors I can purchase and where they sit on the color wheel. So this might feel complicated. All of this kind of stuff is inside of the Color Made Simple course. I explain all of it and help you learn how to make them for yourself. And this one I'm about to add to it because I keep adding to the course as I go. It's already complete and I just keep adding more to make it better. So this one here, what this is in simplicity is you can see this triangle here. This is our primary colors. And we can see the other triangle is our secondary colors. So what we have on the outside is our primary colors, our secondary colors, and then in between are our tertiary colors in those squares. What comes between tertiary and our primary, tertiary, secondary, tertiary, primary, all of these little dots along the way, these are considered quaternary, and that's what makes up the 24, because we've got 3 here with our primaries, then we've got 6 when we add the secondaries, we add the tertiaries, we end up with 12, and finally we get to our 24 when we add those quaternary. Those are all on the outside of the color wheel. They're vibrant, they're rich colors, they're pure pigments, they don't mix with other things, and they're really, really stunning to work with. As you see, we go one step further in here, and then another step further in. It gets more and more neutral as we mix colors together. So what happens here See here where we add a little bit of purple to our yellow, we end up with something like this color here. When we add a bit of this permanent green light to this quinacridone violet, but it's kind of almost a middle mix, but it's just got a little bit extra of this color, we get something like this raw umber violet. And so on, this works. So here we've got an indigo color here. This is our blue with a bit of our red in it, and that gives us the indigo color. Prussian blue has even less of the red in it. Payne's gray has more of the red in it. And in fact, when you put even more and far less of the blue, you end up with a Van Dyke brown and into burnt umber here. So how do I make burnt umber? I get my secondary red color and I add a bit of the primary blue to it. And I'm going to end up somewhere here with the burnt umber. So all of these colors can be purchased, and I could purchase all these colors inside of here. But I own my 24, so all I need to do is actually just create them myself, because I know across the color wheel from each other, I just need a bit more, because this is my middle point. I need a little bit more of this green than I do of what's across from it, this violet. And I'm going to end up with this tervert, or this olive green, which is a little bit further this direction, quinacridone purple and phthalo yellow green. So all of this mixing, I can see how to make everything, but I still don't understand how color theory works. I can see what my color chart does, and I can see what happens when I build these together. But it's really interesting just to see what's on the market, what can I purchase, where does it actually land on the color wheel if I actually wanted to mix it myself. And this is the answer to that. Ultimately, the more you mix colors together and you reach that middle point between mixing them, you reach a more and more neutral color. And as you get further and further away from that neutral point, you get those vibrant colors that haven't been mixed together with something, and they're just a raw pigment. And I think, for me, that vibrancy is what keeps me coming back. I really love it. Some people love those kind of neutral colors, and that's absolutely fine. And sometimes they're perfect to have, but I don't actually need to buy them. I don't need to put them in my palette. All I get to do is just buy 24 colors, or I can just work with 6, which I do plenty of, and I just teach you how to do in the Color Made Simple course. And then you can actually just go in here and create all of this yourself. And you know how to create that color, because even though somebody is selling that to you, you know exactly how to make it for yourself, because you have charts that show you how these colors are going to interact, and you can just say, I want that rich green gold. That's where it is. I need a cadmium yellow deep and some viridian, or I need some of this color here. This is how I'm going to make it. This is really, really handy stuff. But to be able to understand how color theory works and how these things make sense is actually simpler than you can possibly imagine. And I would absolutely love to have you in the Color Made Simple course. If you think that making sense of this would save you money, then please join me. I think it's a great investment. I keep updating it. You get lifetime access. You can kind of go through it in your own pace and then work your way through it. And you can literally buy just 6 colors to go through the entire course, or you can expand to 12 or 24 colors. And I'll show you how to do the whole thing. Ink tints, watercolor, different brands of watercolor, and students make questions or they request all the time different things that they'd like, and I just do it because I think the better the course is, the better off we all are. So much fun. I am a little bit of a color fanatic. I absolutely love it. But what's not to love? Is this not the juiciest chart ever to look at? And to think that I can make all of these colors easily with 24 colors, plus my little 3 white, gray, and black. You could totally do this as well. If it's of interest to you, then join me. And if you want to just take a stab at it, you just do it. Tell me how it goes. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll talk to you soon.